Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's CLFurlong, I am your host, and today I am once again super thrilled to introduce you to our latest guest, and that is Clara Kim. Now, I met Clara, actually it was only the last couple of months, basically scrolling through Instagram and on YouTube, and I stumbled upon her current journey that she's documenting, which is her business, Kira, and she's on this journey to document, share, what it's like to create a dream studio and a pet furniture business from bottom up. And it's a bit random, but it's actually super cool. And the reason why is because basically in this episode, we talk about how if you combine curiosity with talent, skills, and passion, and then bring in the elements of design, well, naturally you land in a sweet spot of being in your element. And that is Clara Kim. You know, she's a specialist in woodworking and wood sculpting, and she has this true intention to focus on building designs or building something that is interactive and functional. And she is obviously making that show very evidently as she's carving her dream studio together and her business, Kira. So in this episode, we dive into a lot of things. We talk about, the journey of finding your moment in which you realize this is what I want to do, and the elements we should all pay attention to, which navigate us, and how to leverage the skills and curiosity to bring our passions to life. So, however you like to listen, whether it is with a cup of coffee, cup of tea, if you are driving, however it is, get cozy. We are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, and all those great places. So get cozy and let's get into it. Welcome, Clara, to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast. How are you going today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Chris?
Yes, very well. And you're over in Chicago, so what? It's like 7 p.m. yesterday.
Oh, is it yesterday too?
Yep, it's yesterday.
7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. Yeah, nice. And it's, I always get confused with which season. So you guys are in, we're just coming out of winter, so you must be in summer.
We're in summer right now.
Nice.
Kind of summer. Chicago summer is not that long. I always call it 100 days of summer here. So we're pretty much on the, I would say, 70 day.
Okay, but 100 days is that's 3 months anyway, right? Yeah, okay. Because that's not exactly a short summer. Like,
is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's for Australia. We tend to have, when we seem to be hot all the time. Anyway, less about the weather and let's talk about you. So you're doing a lot of amazing things, and you are an amazing individual. And I think that's what really stuck out to me is your curiosity, and of course all your woodwork and your sculpture. But let's hear about who you are and what you're all about in a bit of a nutshell, just so the audience can hear it from you and understand what you're all about.
So real quick, me as a nutshell, like Chris mentioned, my name is Clara Kim. I'm born in Athens, Ohio, but I flew back to Korea at the age of seven, and I flew back to the States at 2012, so I think that's 21. And I now find myself in Chicago doing woodworking, and now trying to work on Kira.
That's it. No, it's an exciting journey, and like obviously there's so much to unwrap there. And I think with any conversation that I have with people, where they are, pursuing something, or if they're starting something, or where they are at this point in time, there's always so much history behind it that goes with it. And I'm excited to dive into that. So let's touch on yourself around, maybe taking it way back when, all the way back to even school and university. So by trade, I know you have a huge interest in art, but what did you actually study? Because at the end of the day, you are doing wood sculpting, and we're going to touch on that later. But where did that all come from? Was it art? Is that what you studied? Or was it something else that kind of moved you into art?
So for me, art, it was always embedded in my life as a childhood, because my mom, she studied painting. So I always tell the story when people talk about, oh, how did you got into art? It's like, I always tell my mom, like in one day, my mom drew this character, a human figure crossing her arm. And I still remember me and my sister just like wowing with her drawing, because it was so amazing. Like, oh, she just drew simple lines here and there, and boom, we got a beautiful female with her arm crossed, so elegant. So I just started my interest in art as a child, and like more growing up, I knew I liked to make things with my hand. Like it really didn't matter at the time what it was. It could be baking, it could be just like,
Okay.
playing in the mud, just making things, making mud pies, And actually, and also I do have an associate degree in ceramics that I got back in Korea. But after graduation, I just I just had a moment of loss in what I really wanted to do because I do have a degree in ceramics. I know I can do well, but it just didn't felt right for me. So that's how I got to fly back out in the States to pursue study and um, going out from just ceramic, just expanding the material to sculpture. So that's how. So I came to Chicago to attend a school called SAIC,
Okay.
and what attracted me to go to that school is I didn't have to choose a major because I didn't want to choose a major because I
Mm.
didn't want to really know what I wanted to do. So that really attracted me, and I attended school, and I just got to dabble in different mediums as much as I could, like fiber, metal, wood, and like eventually I did found my most interest in wood, and that's how I got to work on it more, and now I'm here trying to make some awesome things out of wood.
That's awesome. And it's very interesting because, you said, yeah, you have your primary background was originally in ceramics, which is very niche, right? And it's interesting that you then realized, it wasn't for you or you weren't feeling it. And then to be able to take on that opportunity to then study a bit broader in terms of, well, abroad and broader, but in terms of not necessarily knowing what you were going to focus on, but it removing that, that major focus point or a niche, and it gave you that chance to kind of dabble and play, which it's quite interesting because in the current day and age, a lot of people say if you're trying to build something or become well known in an area, they say you should niche down. But of course, it's very hard to niche down if you don't even know what your niche is. So it's interesting that you did that, and I always love hearing this because a lot of the time we don't know what we want, or we have this idea in our heads that, okay, I want to do art, or I want to do ceramics, or I want to do whatever. But then when you actually go do it, you realize, oh, this isn't what I wanted to do. And then, it's all kind of like panic mode. But sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to realize you've studied for a while and then having to make that change. So, I mean, how long, so you actually finished your degree in ceramics? That would have been like, what, 2 or 3 years or?
It was shorter. It was just 2 years, but
Okay.
it was mainly just focusing on techniques and more for making plates. It wasn't too much about making like putting thoughts into the work. It was more like skill. Let's
Right.
make it take.
Yeah.
So it was just I learned skills, but
Yeah.
not really like I what I can do with it.
Right. Okay. But did you find that after doing, after finishing that and then realizing that's not what you wanted to do, like how long did it kind of take you to then realize, well, it's okay, you can go study again, you can think broader, or was it kind of like a bit of a freak out moment thinking you've just done 2 years, and did you ever feel like that was a waste, or was it kind of like, no, this is just a next, stepping stone to what was next?
It was actually a stepping stone.
Yeah.
I never freaked out on the fact that I didn't want it to do ceramics. Because after I graduated, I was actually getting ready to transfer to another college
Right.
or university. And during that time, that period was more um, tiring for myself because the way that you get ready for college in Korea, it's a little bit different from here. They're more focused on trying to create a product out of like a very limited hours. So like if you can't show your skill within that
Right.
hour, like that's all it. You don't get a second chance.
Wow.
So yeah, me being in the system for so long, I don't like to be stressed with time. Like the moment that I'm stressed and needing to finish like within a really cramped time, like I would rather like no.
Yeah.
This like how can you know one person's skill just with the limited hours? So that didn't make
Yeah.
sense. So that's how I got out here because like it's more based on what the potential of one person can show later on, like or during the process of learning, rather than what you have at the current moment.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
States.
Okay, because I mean, it's actually very beautiful that you say that, because you kind of said that you don't like being rushed and stressed into it. When you think about art in itself, no matter what kind of art it is, you can't really rush art. Like it's something that, you know, you might be able to do art quickly, but rushing isn't quick, right? You know, rushing is when you're stressed and you. But art takes time. You're putting, whether it's emotion, you're putting time, you're putting skill, you're putting effort, you're putting thought and creativity into something, and you literally cannot rush it. So it's a really nice parallel. It's just very interesting how you said that. And I think that kind of reflects in everything that you've done and you're working towards. I just want to step back though. So you had mentioned about your mum being a huge influence, where she kind of introduced you to art because of her drawings. So how else do you think that has then played into you, I guess, going from ceramics to then exploring further and now actually landing into the world of woodworking or wood sculpting?
The biggest influence coming from my mother is always, if it's not right at the moment, like figure it out something else. Because before I got to the school for ceramics, I got into a school for majoring in painting, but when I got it, like it never felt right for me.
Right.
It was away from the place that I was living, so I wasn't really happy about that. I got accepted by a school, and I was just like, whatever. And one day, my mom just brought up this idea, like, hey, there's actually a school in nearby our place, and there's a ceramic program that I can take. Like, yeah, that sounded way more interesting for me than going to a school for painting, doing that for 4 years. Like, yeah, like that sounded more right.
Yeah.
So I got into it, and I did have fun for the 2 years. I definitely love that I know how to um, throw a wheel, or being able to make something out of just like hand building.
Yeah.
But still, like now that I got a little bit of opening of what I can do in making with my hands, like what else can I do? And while I was getting ready for school back in Korea again, my mom also just thrown the opportunity, like, hey, why don't you actually just get out from here?
Yeah.
Not kicking me out of home, but just suggesting like, hey, why don't you like open up the opportunity? Because like it's something that's like, why not?
Yeah. No, that's a good point, right? Because sometimes, we get so focused, and it's good to be self-aware. And it sounds like you are very self-aware around things not feeling right. But then sometimes we get so focused or in the moment of what we're trying to achieve that sometimes we just do need someone else to kind of give that fresh perspective, or, call it out or say it how it is, or say, have you thought about doing this? And it's a very funny, thing. It's like, oh, well, why would I do that? It's kind of like, well, why not? Like, what's the worst that can happen kind of thing. And it's really encouraging to hear, that you did have that influence and inspiration and support from your mum. I mean, not everyone does get that, and not everyone gets the influence and encouragement, at a young age to get to where they need to be. But I think it's great to be able to hear that, because sometimes we hear you've got the left and right sides around how parents want people to go in, be a nurse, be a doctor, go do all this high-end job, which is fine. But then sometimes if they do want to pursue a dream or passions, or sometimes it is art, that it's not looked upon as like, well, how's that going to earn you money? So it's nice to hear that you did have that. I guess some people might call it an unfair advantage, but at the same time, we do tread our own path. You could have then made the decision to not pursue that and not do that anyway. So it's interesting just to hear all this. And then aside from your mum, has there been any other kind of influence that has helped, kind of mold you into taking that path of art and, ceramics and then woodwork? Or is it kind of just been, as you've gone through, you've then developed more and more and just a more curiosity for it?
I think for me, my mom was the person to open the door, and then once I got out the door, it was me being able to explore more, because I do have the support. Like, yes, like what you said, not every parent support like their child going through art, because it does not make money, to be honest. There are some art field that does make money, like design art, but what I was doing, it's not something that's guaranteed. Yet
Yeah.
my mom supported me. So like I'm just here jumping around, exploring what I can do. Um, so yeah, it's like the push from my mom was what was making me able to explore and have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay. And which is, yeah, it's very interesting because, yeah, depending on the influence we get from others, it sometimes then does dictate the decisions we make. But I guess what I'm very curious to know is, so at what moment did you kind of think, and coming back to, how you mentioned that, art, you usually don't earn, it's not like you're going to be earning money straight away, but of course, different fields and whatnot, it can be quite lucrative. But at what point, knowing that and knowing it is a different field compared to the norm, um, when was the moment, or was there a moment when you realized, yep, this is what I want to do, and you kind of clicked that, I want to go all in with the area of art and all the broadness that it comes with?
Um, yeah, definitely that moment came at the very last year of my school. Like because up until I found because wood is now my main medium and what I'm enjoying and what I'm like that is my like biggest skill set. Before it was me dabbling like all the mediums that I can.
Yeah.
Like how I got to find my medium was like it was actually a class that was recommended by my friend who was kind of worshiping this instructor of the class, how amazing he is and how knowledge he is. So like, and yeah, it was a woodworking class, and I never took a more specific woodworking class. So like, hey, I never dabbled in wood. Like, why don't I go for this class? And in to be honest, the class itself was a huge failure because instead of me taking a beginner class, I took a intermediate class.
Okay.
I instead of learning the basics, I got to learn more like really awesome skill sets that I wasn't ready for. Um, but that kind of opened up my door of woodworking, and that was a spring semester. So right after it was over during summer, I was here, pretty much had a bunch of time. So I gave myself a summer project, making a loft bed because I really wanted a loft bed, never had one. So like, hey, I got all this time. Why don't I make one and try to teach myself? So that project took the entire summer, but at the end of it, I made it and I used it for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And that just opened up my wood world.
Yeah. Now that's so awesome, because you saying that literally just defines when you can tell that moment, literally, because you've gone from, things that you were just learning, you've put the challenge on yourself to think, oh, I'm going to step it up, go into deep end and, go into that next level in learning. But then you've realized, okay, this is a bit tougher, but then you've gone and applied what you could more passionately, not as work, and, put it into practice, and then it's come to life. And even hearing you say that, you can see it's very evident, which is very exciting. And I love how it still ties back to like, well, why not? Why not give it a go, see what happens? And it's really cool because it really does mirror the whole element of art, because, it always surprises me. And I know I'm kind of going off track. It's, when people can kind of sell art and all they did was they just threw something at a piece of paper and it stuck, right? And it's like, why did you do that? It's like, well, I was just experimenting. I mean, they might have a more, big reason or metaphorical reason, but a lot of the time it's like, well, they're just trying, they're just learning and experimenting. And that's exactly the same adventure you've kind of taken on, which is super, super cool, which kind of then, yeah, it jumps to the next part that I want to dive into, is around then, navigating that whole ecosystem of art. And I know we've started to dabble on that, but you've obviously mentioned that, yeah, you landed into the woodwork space, or wood as your material, and you've then started to develop those skills. You've talked about that passion project, and then finding the experience. So let's fast forward a little bit from after doing that. I mean, going for that passion project, I'm not sure when you started to then seek additional experience, but maybe we can touch on that. So did you then start to look for additional experience or jobs or side hustles or hobbies in the wood world while you were studying, or did that kind of come afterwards?
Um, that will be something that came afterward. Um, Hmm.
Because I know like you ended up, and without giving too much away, because I want you to share that around that piece of work that you did that's labeled root, that chair that you did. So in terms of that, which we can chat about if that makes more sense, how did that come into play and into life? Because obviously there would have been a moment of building up to that, and then even having the, I guess, whether it's the rapport or someone saying, yeah, it makes sense that you come help do that with me, or was it you just kind of saying, hey, putting my hand up, why not? I'll give it a go.
So yeah, that piece that I made, that I titled Root, that's actually my thesis piece. And
Okay.
how it started was like me studying art. The biggest struggle for myself studying art was trying to understand someone else's work, because like the school that I went to, they're more heavily conceptual, heavily focused on conceptual artwork,
Right.
which is more on the statement of the artwork and the complexity within the statement. And I'm more of a person that I like to be wowed by what I see. But furthermore, from what I'm being wowed, I like to like be able to interact with the piece a little
Yeah.
bit. When you go to a museum, like how often do you see a piece that you can interact with?
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, it's very a rare experience that you can interact with a piece. So I always had that concept in the back of my head. Like I want, if I make work, I want it to be something that can people can interact with, either like being able to touch, or at least it has some other scent. Uh, so me like, and the very last, or 2 semester before I graduated, I also took a fundamental woodworking class. That's not true. Fundamental of furniture making class.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've kind of gone
Like,
back.
what is that? Yeah, so it's a fundamental of furniture making class. So I also got to learn how to make an actual like functional piece out of wood. And me having so much interest in woodworking, I wanted to have two of those like collide, and being able to create a sculpture that is functional.
Yep.
So um, the piece that I got to make, I called it a sculptural furniture, because it in a furniture form, it's a stool, but
Yep.
it's also a sculpture.
Yeah.
So I made that in order to like kind of fulfill my interest and my want of creating artwork.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I think this is a really key moment for the audience to understand, is because, when you're explaining that, in my head, I'm picturing a Venn diagram where you've kind of like got one bubble and another bubble, and then you've kind of merged them together. And in the middle is your sweet spot, or what people like to say is your, find your swing, or your area where you like to dabble in, and literally taking two interests of things that, whether it is curiosity, whether it is skill, and hearing that you took the initiative to go out and do that additional furniture learning, to then apply it to what you're already learning, and then bring them together. It creates a whole new world, right? And that in itself speaks passion and speaks curiosity. And I think this is what separates people from being able to, not saying that you can't be successful by not doing this, but it creates something different, something fresh, and makes you stick out, because no one else is necessarily doing it. Now, there's probably hundreds of people doing it in different sorts and different ways, but it's not something that is the norm. It's not something which is, you can just pick up and do. You've literally had to blend two things together, which is really, really exciting to hear, because that is like passion in itself. So really, really good kudos there for you. I love how you've been able to do that. So that was for your thesis then, right? And I know that it got quite a, and look, what I'll put the link in the descriptions for anyone that's listening, of course, to go check it out, because it's a magnificent piece. But that kind of got like featured, and like it was quite a big deal once you finished it, right?
Yeah, so I would say my entire thesis, I call it a changing moment for myself, because one of my friend who worked at the gallery that actually my piece was featured, she worked there, and she just came to the thesis show, just hang around and take up photos. And when she showed my piece to her boss, he got really interested in what I made, because at the moment he was looking for a sculpture, but also furniture. Like, so there were a couple pieces in the show that had similar concept, or not similar concept, but kind of um, called his interests,
Right.
and so my piece got featured in his gallery, and I also got to work at the shop, um, the school wood shop, as a supervisor later
Wow.
after I graduated. So
That
it
that's
was,
so cool.
yeah, it was that year. I would call it a very interesting year and a lot of change.
Yeah, it's really cool how, I mean, it all comes back to you and putting in the effort, putting in the hard work, and actually the dedication and passion, which then speaks volumes, right? Because what you've put into it is obviously a reflection, and why people look at it and think this is amazing, this is different, and why someone would want to have that featured, and then the opportunity that brings you to have, right? Being able to work with, you said it was with that school or whatnot, which is really cool to hear, because once again, we never know where these things are going to lead us to. If you'd asked yourself 3-4 years before you were going even to do woodwork, or even focus on that, or even going into the broader art area, you probably would never have imagined that. And now it's kind of like, flash by, it's all a blur, and it's all just happened so quickly, right? It's, I mean, you must have that bit of a kind of like a wow factor in some sense when you reflect on it.
Totally. It's like, wow, that did everything happen? Like, is that true?
Yeah. Wow. It's really good, right? And it's, give yourself a big pat on the back. So with that, good stuff. So you already mentioned it, that, from that you were able to get some experience, but I guess what other roles, before we even get into the world of Kiara, what other roles of experience have you done in that field? So you finished your study, you've done your thesis, what was the next thing that you moved on to in terms of developing your skills or working?
So after graduation, I was working at the wood shop as a supervisor for 3.5 years. It's like just being exposed in that environment, just and also needing to educate a lot of people, who has no interest in woodworking. Sometimes I would say majority of the time has no interest. So that gave me a whole lot of learning curve of trying to teach someone who's not willing to listen. But yeah, like just being in that environment, I got to learn a lot. Just being able to hone my skill in depth, because I have to be the person, like me as a supervisor in the shop. I need to be the model of, like, or I have to know. I need the knowledge in order to educate someone.
Yeah.
So I was just current. I was just continuously exposed in the environment that I had to teach myself, develop, or hone, so
Yeah.
I can be sharp.
Yeah, okay, which makes sense. I mean, the best way to learn is to teach anyway. But I mean, I must ask, because this is where I get confused, and probably I don't know if the audience would as well. But so when I think of woodwork or woodworking, I naturally think of furniture, but clearly that's not the same thing. So if you had to define, woodwork, how is it different to when you're thinking of furniture making? Like, how to, yeah, please solve that for me.
I think woodwork is just a general term of using wood and making something out of wood.
Right.
And carpentry, it's like woodwork, carpentry, and sculpture.
Yeah, okay. Because yeah, I guess so woodwork would probably be more like carpentry then.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Right. Okay, that makes more sense. Because naturally when I think of woodwork, yeah, you're building something, but then I'm thinking, well, a lot of the stuff that you're building, if it's not a house, or like, a place, or something that you can store something in, it's probably more likely furniture, but there's obviously things in between that. So very curious. But no, that makes sense. And thank you for for clarifying that.
No
Okay, so
worries.
so I mean, you've already touched on how you really do have that love to be able to put some, make something that's interactive, something that's functional, and you found that earlier, going through your, well, building out your thesis and whatnot, and we touched on that. But I guess there is, and you alluded to it at the start, how there is always this big balance or debate between the physical art versus the theory of art, or how we view it and how we envision it. And I guess that curiosity, is that, I mean, you said that you wanted to make sure that people could kind of interact with it, you wanted people to be able to look at it differently. Where do you think that's come from? Or was it just kind of because it was your own self-interest, and you just hadn't seen it? Or do you think it was something else that you thought, actually, this is, that sparked you into that idea?
It's definitely something that I had interest in it because like I had the thought of like when you just look at work, like how much you can get the idea out of it. Like what if you can sit on it? What if
Yeah,
you can hold the work? Like what different like experience would that give to the viewer?
yeah,
Like so I wanted to make something that people can create their own story rather than reading the artist's statement. Because if you're reading the statement all the time and like the statement is so long and complex, like after you don't have too much time to concentrate on the work.
yeah. That's
I
true.
wanted to eliminate people reading the statement, but rather creating their own story.
Yep.
Because sometimes, sometimes you can agree with the artist, sometimes you don't want to agree with the artist. So, like, I wanted the viewer to create their own story by being able to interact with it.
Yeah, that's true because I guess, just using root as an example, being a chair, if you sat in it, everyone's going to experience that differently. Like, oh, this is cool. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. Who would ever have this as a chair, right? But then other people can appreciate how it's all put together. So I can understand that. So then I'm very curious to know then, so leading up to root or after root, before even getting to Kiara, is have you done other things like that then? So do you have some other examples of things that you've made which they are both of yes, they're interactive, but they are the art piece, or they're functional, or they are conceptual at the same time? And yeah, do you have some more examples of things that you've done in that sense?
No, after Root, I wasn't able to really make a lot of my own artworks because I was working at the school full time, and afterward, now I'm working at a place, a custom furniture business. So like not much time I had, and the way that I wanted to make is if I make interactive work, it's either completely scaled up, or if it's small, it's I have to use other technologies that I don't have too much knowledge on it. So it's I have to teach myself in order to make it. So after Root, I don't have another example that I can show, but I have sketches on my note that is just waiting there for me to like, hey, whenever you got time, we're here.
Well, which is fine because that's a good segue into Kiara, which I guess now that is exactly that, right? You've kind of now starting to put that into play in a whole different world, completely different. And I mean, obviously the audience is probably thinking, what is Kiara? What is Kiara? So we fast forward. Yes, you've been working for a while. You've established yourself with the skills, always learning still though, right? Which you've said very clearly, but obviously you've got the strong passion for wood and sculpting. And now you have this business that you're starting to bring to life and I guess sculpt together, called Kiara. So before we dive into that, can you pitch in short to the audience what is Kiara to help them understand what it is, what it's all about?
So, Kira, Kira is a pet furniture business my boyfriend and I are working on as a team. And the concept of Kira is to make an artistic pet furniture that's functional for both humans or more for pets, but also for humans as well. Because like as a very quick example, if I search a cat scratching post, like the first one and a lot of people use is the square tower type. Yeah. So that is the biggest one and only design that I see a lot. So like why don't what if the scratching post is something outside of the box, like instead of being a squared post, what if it's a triangle or a square or some other like unique design that you never seen, that when the cat is using it, it could be a scratching post, but when they're not using it, what if it's a sculpture that's in a place?
Yeah.
So that's the idea of Kira that we're building on right now.
It's really cool because once again, I love how you're bringing things together and you're kind of just looking at it from a different perspective. But in short, it's kind of really simple. Like, it's like, oh, why didn't anyone else think about this? But you're exactly right. If you Google it, you're seeing that cliche generic tower, in different sizes and shapes and whatnot. But a lot of it is very consistently the same. And for you to kind of just come along and think, well, here, this is what I've done in the past. Here, this is what I love to do. And, obviously there's a bit more context of, why for pet furniture, which we'll touch on in a minute. But then you're literally just going in there with a fresh mindset, out of the box thinking, and then just bringing it to life. And what I think is so cool is just doing that, like in itself, because no, not anyone can just jump into this. Anyone can have that idea, but you have the special set of skills, you've got the timing right, and now you're able to go and apply it. But it's really just cool that you can literally just think of that and then make it happen. Because a lot of the time people have ideas, but they think, oh, but I don't have the skills, or I'm not technology advanced. I don't know how to code, or I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to create. And a lot of the time then they get frustrated because they're not able to then do what they want to be able to create. Where I'm not saying this is easy for you either, but I know that, to be able to then think of those ideas, and obviously you've got your boyfriend supporting you with that, but to then make it come to life and start to come to life, it must be, once again, one of those wow moments of kind of like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's like actually how Kira started it's an idea that was brought up during the pandemic, like when everyone's locked down and had to work from home. Like there was just one day my boyfriend, he came up to me like, hey, why don't you work on a pet furniture business? Like at the moment, as much it did really sounded appealing, but at the same time, it was a little bit overwhelming for me because I know in the future I do want to own my own business, but just at the moment I didn't have the tool.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of a hesitation, and probably later, and that's how the conversation ended. But like a few weeks later, he came back and saying, "Hey, why don't we start a pet furniture business?" Because to mention a little bit of my boyfriend, he has a lot of experience in business, and I like hearing all the stories from him and his parents and sibling. Like I have full trust that he could navigate and help me out, or help each other out, and him trusting that I can develop and create products, and us together. I thought, hey, we can create something really dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it started. So like the second time he came back to me, that was the wow moment. Like, that sounds right.
Yeah. It's, once again, I love how there's like this little string all between this whole episode of it, once again coming back to those two Venn diagrams back together, where you've got what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and now it's what he's good at. You're putting them together and you get that little sweet spot in between. And I think sometimes that's what it really comes down to is, we have things come at us and we think it's too scary, or we make excuses, or that's not for me. And we don't think about, or how could we make it work, but we think, oh, why it wouldn't work. Whereas then, once your boyfriend's changed the way he's approached, and whether he did that strategically or not, I'm not sure. But, he's put that to play and said, well, let's do it together. And, then knowing his set of skills that he's able to do, it removes that stress, because, now don't have to go run the business. You just get to play and create and build and be in your element, right? Which that's the thing that you would want to be doing, because once you start having to get about, worried about all that other stuff, it becomes stressful, and clearly that's not what you want to be focusing on. So it's, once again, it's really cool to hear how that blossoms. So, okay, so you've said, yes, let's do this. So, and this is obviously all in the last year, right? So what happened from there? Like, how did you kind of kick off? And was it more of let's just even see if there's anything worth dabbling in? Or was it kind of like, let's just do this?
It was, let's do this. After we talked about a little bit of like, let's start this business, we went ahead and bought a domain. And then once we bought a domain, like, we're really doing this.
That's good. I like it. He's like making sure that the pressure's on, but not too much.
Yeah, it's like a nice, good carrot and a little whip,
Yeah.
So yeah, once we bought a domain, we were talking about design, like how we want to approach it, and what is the the core of here our business, like what do we want to focus on, like, so we were working on like a couple lines, like what we can do at the moment, like, or immediately in um so the first product that we were working on for the past like uh a good month or two, like because I have a full-time job, it was only like a little bit of time that we can work on Kira. But the first product that we were working on is a cat scratching pose, the example that I gave earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while we were working on the prototype, we were also wanted to share our like journey, because like often like a lot of business, like they do show their journey like once they got established a little bit. You know, it's I don't see often a lot of business like sharing their journey, like how they're going through like their struggle and how they're growing. So like the also another important part of what we wanted to put out with Kira was like the transparency of
Yeah.
our journey. And also we're also making a lot of video on YouTube and also IG. We're being active on it because we also wanted to build up connection with people. We wanted to be human before a client and a business, like, hey, you buy my stuff, I make stuff for you. So we wanted to have that relationship with people.
Yeah. It's look, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, that this is actually how I found Clara, and why we're doing this episode is because I think I don't know, I randomly found you on YouTube, or if it was on Instagram, and you were creating or documenting, right? And I was just very curious about it. I don't have any cats, you know. I've had no interest in really woodwork, but I was very curious to just seeing the process and the documentation of starting from nothing and building up. And you know, I think you're must be about 8-10 episodes in now, somewhere around there, I think. And you know, seeing you, and I love how you on Instagram you share about some of the problems that you're dealing with, and then I know that that's going to be coming up in the episode on YouTube of how you're going to get through it, work through it. And it's a fun journey because people are coming along for the ride, and even though we know nothing about it, we can all of a sudden start to become invested and think, oh, how are they going to solve this? Or we had no idea this is the effort that's required. But at the same time, it's a huge, awesome way to market and, you know, demonstrate what you're putting into the products that you're creating for potential clients and potential buyers. So I think it's a brilliant way to do it. And coming back to your point, how you said that you don't see a lot of businesses doing this. And I think that's very true. And I mean, there's a lot of people doing it now in the modern day, but you think about, you know, in the last 10 years, it's not very found. A lot of the time we're seeing people that have already hit that 10-year success point, and they say, you need to go put in the hard work. You need to go do all these things. But you're like, well, how? Who's done it? Where can we see it? Whereas now, because we have a lot of the access to, you know, obviously whether it's recording or filming or whatever, we can see these things. And I think it's so important to be able to share that journey because once again, starting from zero, it helps people see that anything is possible if you put the work to it, right? And what I love is you are not just showing a highlight reel, you are showing the ups and downs, the struggles and whatnot. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it is that it's done in a really unique way. And I don't want to oversell it or anything like that. So people go check it out. That is, you know, all the details are in the description and in the show notes. But I think that's a really important way of how you're able to build, because once again, you're building a new skill for yourself while you're building your skills in your business. And you must find it, I mean, I know you enjoy it, but it must be a bit of a fun process. But when was that your idea, or was that your boyfriend's idea to kind of document it and share it? Or was it both?
That was definitely my boyfriend's idea because he also has experience in videography. So he wanted to record the process in a way of him also trying to cheer me up and showing like what I'm doing is like super awesome and I want to show it.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's true. And that's very evident because, you know, I love how he does capture everything you're doing, because we can literally see you thinking, or we can see how you're processing the, you know, how you're trying to problem solve. And I think he captures that really, really well. And I think that's what makes it really enjoyable to see, because it resonates. I think, you know, anyone that is building something of their own, and, you know, for myself with my own journeys and whatnot, I can relate to this because that's exactly how I think I look or think I feel when I'm experiencing a similar problem or a roadblock or something to solve. So I guess, so when he gave you that suggestion, what was your reaction? Were you keen to do that, or did he kind of have to warm you up to it, and or was it a bit of a process of getting comfortable in front of the camera?
I think the most awkward moment for me being in front of the camera is when I need to talk. So, but if it's him recording me, because I'm also in my own zone of trying to make, we still do have to communicate of what my next process is gonna be, because he's not used to the process of
Yeah.
making and so he needs a little bit heads up, like, hey, this is what I need to know in order to get things recorded.
Yeah.
But I don't think I was ever feeling like really awkward. Probably I might have been like slightly awkward like here and there, but my boyfriend will like let me know like, hey, you're being a little bit awkward.
It's really cool,
Like,
right? I love the collaboration, and I love how you guys bring that to life, because it does. It looks really, really good, and it comes together really, really well. And I know that's not easy, working with two, and it's really cool experience to hear that, he's having to learn from you so he can then learn how he's going to perceive the next area. But you have no idea how he's doing his stuff, so you kind of just have to work together. And I guess it's a great team building activity. But it's once again coming back to those Venn diagrams, always be growing, and you're mixing two different things together. It's really, really great to be able to hear how that's coming. But I want to touch more on Kira more. So what's the goal? What's the intent? I know at this point you are going through a prototyping stage, and I don't want to share too much on that because I want people to go over and watch it for themselves. But you're going through that process. So let's say that prototype gets done, it's good to go. What's next? Is it focusing on just very unique singular items, or are you? I mean, and you can share as much as you want, and you don't have to share if you don't want to. But are you thinking a long-term scale, or is it kind of like you're just taking it short-term at this point?
well, for Kira, for us, it's a lifelong like goal that we're gonna be going for. And the prototype, it's just a tip of the iceberg that we're trying to dabble in. Like, and that's also a very like one like simple design within the line that we're trying to create. But it's more of a process of like what kind of struggle are we gonna like face into making this prototype, and what can we figure it out during it. So, but the entire goal and our achievement for Kira is like in a long term. What I mentioned earlier, we want to make pieces that's artistic and being able to be functional for like both
Yeah.
humans and pets. And also in down the road, we hear a lot of like voices from people like that products that exist out in the market, it doesn't really works. It only works for one way. So if
Right.
we figure out a way that we can work with people who wants a customized piece, we also want to make those type of pieces, because we're really open for anything and everything.
Yeah.
So like many lines, many products. It's like
That's
it'll
it.
be yeah.
That's really exciting. It kind of comes back to that, why not, right? If you want to try it, you want to, challenge yourself, you want to test yourself. And I love that, because you're not bounding yourself by any boundaries. You're kind of saying, well, this is what you want to dabble in, so the sky's the limit. Let's see what we can do. And that's already very evident in your videos of what you're trying to create and do, which is really exciting. So I know we chatted about this last time when we caught up, but so you've finished up on your job, or you've quit your job now to do this full time, right?
Right now I still have my full-time job, but I will be completing that job in a couple weeks.
That's very
So
exciting.
yeah, so really excited to go full-time with Kira, like, and just launching the business and being
Yeah.
able to make products for like people.
Wow. It's and I think this is an important thing for people to understand, is because you're not making money from Kiara right now, right? Obviously. But you're in a state where you're in a position where you're able to obviously continue to pay bills, whether it's between you and your boyfriend combined. But I think it's important for people to understand that, so why are you making that decision, right? Because I know some people say, usually try and have something on the side that's bringing in some dollars that makes you comfortable. So why are you deciding to go all in rather than, kind of, juggling it for a period, and then jump in maybe when you're earning money from it? What made you make that decision?
So that decision that we were able to make was because we already, it's like right now it's our side hustle, so we're not actually making money out of it, but we got to like do all the trials and errors like by making that prototype. And once I quit my job and go full time with Kira, I know that we have a solid piece that we can immediately start working with. And in a way that we also built up a connection with people who would be interested in our piece, and we could also work around with people out there.
Yeah.
There's actually a community that we got to connect with. It's Cats Travels on Boat. It's a community that people who just travels around on boat, they have cats.
Okay.
And
So random.
yeah, it sounds super random, but it's also super cute. There's like so many photos that I see on my Facebook page now, like just cats on the boat, just chilling on the boat. Like, but there was one person, because there's no furniture out there to put it in
Yeah.
such a like minimized placement, that they were talking about whether we do customized piece, because they wanted to make a cat tree around the main post.
Yep.
And that sounded so interesting for us, and it was almost like, oh, something challenging. And
Yeah.
make this, it's gonna be all different by one boat to another boat.
Yeah.
It's never gonna be a way to like make a standard piece, but I don't care. Like we
Yeah.
can make everything all unique and different, so the people who actually get the product can feel like, oh, this is mine.
Yeah.
Like this is made specifically for us. And like I'm super thrilled about that idea.
Yeah, that's super exciting because, and once again, I can see it in your face, right? Just the passionate excitement and the curiosity, because, and it answers the question really well, because, going all in, yeah, there's a little bit of a risk because obviously, yeah, you're not earning the money, but you have been dabbling in the hustle, you've been, working on the studio, getting all that ready, but you've definitely, you are taking that risk, but the bet is on yourself, right? And that this is your passion, that this is the stuff that you wake up and want to do and think about all the time. So, the worst thing that can happen is it's just going to take longer than you plan. But it's not like, I think it would be very hard for you to fail in this area because, well, obviously you only fail if you give up. But what I'm saying is, like, you're betting against yourself, but you've got this long history of everything that you've been able to do really, really, really well. You've got the backing of your boyfriend with all his skills. It's kind of like, what have you got to lose, right? And it comes back to, why not give it a go? And it's really, really exciting to hear just how you've explained around that, that scenario around, custom piece for a boat and how it would be different for everyone, because it would be, right? And you to be able to say that's, it's not even a niche, right? It's going to be unique, and you to be able to just take that opportunity just off the cuff. A lot of people probably think, nah, it's too much or it's too hard, but you having that background of art and curiosity and then applying, like, to make it interactive and make it functional, it all comes into play of that and enables you to make that even come to life. So it's really cool how it's all just kind of, fed in together.
Yeah, it's like, it's definitely a little bit of scare may be there, but not to the point that makes me stop. Like, hey, I would rather just go full on this. Like, if I don't make money for a little bit, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's my risk that I'm taking.
Yeah, but it's normal to be scared, and it's a good thing because it probably means it's challenging you outside of your comfort zone, right? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? And you would probably just get bored. So I think that's I'm so excited to follow along, and now I'm even more curious to hopefully see that all come to life. Okay, so I'm very curious just to, for people, if they do have wanting to have a better understanding. So what's your focus for the rest of the year? You know, whether it is with the business or are you trying to skill up in other areas? I guess thinking for the rest of 2021, what is the priorities that you're trying to achieve or accomplish? And it might not even be related to the business, but is there anything that you're still working on or wanting to achieve before the end of the year?
Definitely for Kira, launching it. We were planning to go full on live by end of September and the beginning of October. So that's my most immediate goal for the year. And besides that, keeping my health, like, because if you're not healthy, you can't. It's just a little bit more harder to do something else. Keeping up with my health, and I was just talking about this with my boyfriend, like, what about waking up in the morning? Like, I kind of gave up on that. You're gonna be the main person to wake up in the morning, but once I'm up, I have my day going, so I'll put that for you.
You're not a morning person?
If I wake up, I can be a morning person. It's just a waking up part. I can sleep through everything.
Wow. But are you a night owl? Like, do you like to work at night though?
I actually like to work. Yeah, I like to work late at night, but I also do like to wake up early in the morning if I can.
Okay.
It's a condition morning person.
Yeah, okay. That's funny. And it's a good segue to and thanks for answering what your priorities for the rest of the year. But it's a great segue into the segment of rapid fire questions, right? And I love this because it's a chance to learn a bit more about you and outside of the topic that we've been dabbling in. So the first one that I would love, and keep it short and sweet, but if there is value points you want to add in, by all means we can dive into it. But the first one is favorite place to travel.
Ooh, favorite place, Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
And I will be going there soon for the first time.
Wait, how is it your favorite place to travel if you've never been there?
In my head.
Okay, fair enough. I hope your expectations meet reality.
I hope so too.
Wow. Okay, 3 things you love to do in your free time outside of the woodworking and all that.
I like to walk around the city. Actually, my boyfriend and I walk always in the morning, whether it's short or long. So that's my first one. And during the summertime, I do like to go outside and get some tan. And third one, if we have time, also hiking.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think I saw a picture on your Instagram of you guys out on a hike. I love the hiking as well. It's because you just get out, feel the fresh air, and usually by the end of the hike, you get to some amazing lookout or location, which makes it also worth it. So no, that's great to hear. Favorite book you have read or listened to?
It's been a while since I read or heard a book, but my normal book is more podcasts.
Yep.
I love podcasts. Like I don't have fixed podcasts that I just stick to, but Joe Rogan or there's a podcast called Genius Brain. It's very casual, but it's a very open-minded, like casual conversation he has with people. So
yeah, no, it's interesting how much Joe Rogan has kind of taken off in the last two couple of years, and how much curiosity that brings for people, because his conversations are long, right, and they are so bizarre, so random, and bringing so much uniqueness across different people. So that makes sense, and I always love to hear what people are listening and taking in. Do you have any other side hustles, or maybe in the past?
Well, currently Kira is my side hustle, and yeah, and before, probably working on commission pieces.
Yeah,
it's like
okay. Yep. And how this could be deep, or it might be very simple for you. How would you define success?
Oh, success for me is being able to be happy when I go to work, like being happy that I'm like what I'm working is what makes me happy, and also having the flexibility to travel wherever I want to go, because I do love travel.
Nice. It's a good answer. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just I love hearing the differences. You win $10,000. What do you do with it?
I'll probably just put it in my saving account.
Okay, no, that's fine. There's no right or wrong. It's always interesting. I've had people that have dived this down, broken it up into 2000s, and divided it up into 5 different areas. Where some people are like they'll go buy this, whereas that's straight to the savings. Nice. That's cool. It's good. Favorite food?
Favorite food? I love Thai food.
Nice.
Specifically pineapple fried rice.
Yep. There's a nice place in Melbourne that does that. I haven't been there for a very long time, but yeah, we used to always get it. It is good. It is good, especially when it's fresh. Biggest lesson that you have learned?
My biggest lesson that I've learned is you'll find something that you enjoy unexpectedly.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. A lot of wisdom there too. And the last one is, if you could have coffee with any historical figure or someone from the past, a person of inspiration or anyone, who would you choose and why?
I think for me, I don't know if it's a real existing person or if it's just someone made up, but Buddha.
Okay. And why?
Probably just being able to learn, or like being able to be in that, like, I understand everything. Like,
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's always curious. I mean, I've been trying to ask. I try and ask a lot of these questions, and then I mix them up with different audiences, because what I love about it is not one question is going to have the same answer from different people, and there's no right or wrong answer. And one person will think their answer is better than everyone else. And I think this one, it always opens up a whole lot of different things of curiosity, and to hear that, it's really good, because it also shows where else you're curious, right? It also shows you what you want to learn and what you want to take in. So no, like I said, there's no wrong or right answer. So I appreciate you sharing that. Well, there you go. It's been an awesome episode. I've really appreciated you jumping on and taking the time and sharing so much about yourself, your journey, and what's to come. And I'm very excited to continue to follow along and see all the amazing things to come. And I think the key takeaway has been really around how everything you've kind of done in different ways or another has kind of led into where you are going now and what you're doing now, and how you've been able to apply the different worlds or ecosystems together and then make a whole new, opportunity and bring that to life. And it's sometimes it can be very easy to make, we talk about this and it makes it sound very easy, but a lot of the time it is staring us in the front of our faces, right? And I think it's great to hear it from yourself, how, you've got experience, you've done all these things, but now you're really just starting, like you're really just getting into a whole new thing. And it's exciting to see where that's going to go. But before we finish, I want to just give you the chance to, if there was one thing that you would leave with the audience or the listeners from this episode, or one takeaway, what would that be?
I think for me, it's like the biggest thing that I learned, what I mentioned earlier. It's like, don't feel like you're behind just because, like, if you don't have anything that you're interested in yet, or you feel like passionate enough that you want to go through, like, if you don't have it yet, like, don't feel pressured, like, and like, just enjoy and experience a lot of things that you can, and down the road, like, you might find something that you want to go and pursue, like, unexpectedly.
Yeah, it's good advice. And it is, sometimes we get so wrapped up on the now. I know people say to try and just focus on the present and what you can control and whatnot, but sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming because we're not where we think we want to be or where we thought we would be. But the next day brings new opportunity, and sometimes it's that roller coaster where you're going to have the down days, but there's days where it's up, and then when you zoom out, you realize you've actually been going up the entire time. And it's really good advice. I really appreciate you sharing that. So where is the best place for people to follow along, to follow or to watch, or if you social links, where's the best place?
So on IG, you can find me at Clara Builds Kira, and on YouTube, it's Kira Pit Concepts.
Nice. And of course, this is all in the show notes and in the description below. So folks, go check it out. You will not regret it. A lot of fun, a lot of curiosity. And It is. It's bringing a whole lot of different worlds together, and it really stuck out to me. And I have no interest in those areas, but it's really exciting to see, Clara and her boyfriend bring this stuff to life and make it happen. And it's been an absolute honor to have you here, Clara. I really do appreciate you jumping on and taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. This entire podcast was amazing for me too.
You're totally welcome. Well, thank you, everyone, and yeah, have a wonderful day. Cheers.
Bye.
So there you go, guys. What an awesome episode. And how cool is Clara? I am so amazed and just so excited to also continue to follow her journey. But, what she's done to date already and how she's kind of, I guess, carved her way into where she is at the moment. And I think that's the important and main takeaway from this episode is that everything she has done has funneled her down closer and closer to where she needs to be in order to take the next step closer to her dreams and her goals and her passions. And I think it's really important that we understand that even her words of advice before finishing up is, we're not always going to know where we're going or have everything figured out on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's really key is because as you continue to progress, as you continue to push forward with some sense of North Star in mind, things will start to happen, things will start to change as you progress in that direction. And she has clearly said it here, she's jumped around studying different things, whether it was with the ceramics and then a broader art perspective. And then she's also then started to niche down into the woodwork world or into wood. And here we are, a few years later, she's building her own business. She's embarking on an awesome journey and she's making the most of it. She's documenting it, she's sharing it, and it's an exciting journey to be part of. So I really, really enjoyed this episode, and I think I'm also super excited to be able to see where Clara's going to go and build out Kira and all that exciting jazz. So, of course, I do encourage you to go reach out to her, go jump over to her socials, go have a look and see what she's doing. If you haven't seen her YouTube and see the documentation that they're doing in creating the business, the studio, and Kira, well, jump on over there because you will not regret it. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. There was a lot here which I think is super important for us to take away. Sometimes we ask ourselves, why should we do this? And sometimes the answer can be, why not? Give it a go, see what you can do, and what's the worst that can happen. My name's CLFurlong, I am your host, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to bridge this conversation between you and Clara, and I hope you've taken something away from it. So, you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.